Hi, welcome to the AI Update. I'm your host, Ashley Coffey.
And I'm Daniel Hill. Every week in 12 minutes, we cover all the AI news stories you need to know about.
So let's go ahead and dive in for this week. Our top story this week, we're going to start with an interview with LinkedIn CEO Ryan Roslansky on how AI is affecting the jobs market, specifically with AI agents and dealing with fake AI generated accounts. And this is something really specific because so many people are having a hard time getting their job application through to a human to actually read it. So it's been interesting to see the LinkedIn CEO talk about this in depth and how wild and out of control it's really gotten. So if you have applied for a job, you probably have seen a lot of applicant tracking systems and kind of not being optimized in the right way. But the standout from this article that I wanted to really highlight for everyone listening with the AI shift is that we are looking at a complete paradigm shift of how we look for jobs. And LinkedIn is continuing to be a great platform for people to write thought-leading articles or share recent job updates. But everyone knows that everyone's leaning into AI agents really hard right now, but there are really varying degrees of how well they can execute on tasks. So we'll leave a link into the show notes if you want to go ahead and read the long version of that story. Highly recommend. But let's go ahead and dive into the next one for this week.
Actually, can we talk about this story from the LinkedIn CEO for
Let's
a
do
second?
it.
I wanted
Yeah.
to get your thoughts. Do you think that all of the steps that it takes to apply to a job now are worth it?
Yeah.
And that's something that I struggle with because the amount of things you have to do after you upload or before you upload your resume, create an account for each individual company's workday, or upload your resume, make sure it's all filled in properly. Sometimes it asks you to fill in that information, even though you just uploaded your resume with all that information.
Mhm.
Companies ask for cover letters. And I think, who's reading these cover letters? And should I even take the time to write it? So
Yep.
maybe I will use AI, but then if everyone's just using AI to write the cover letters, how does anybody stand out? The whole thing is just such a frustrating experience in 2025. And I think LinkedIn is just as much to blame for this problem as Workday and some of the other ATS applicant tracking systems. What are your thoughts on that process right now?
I 100% agree, Daniel. I've seen it change so much just in the past 5 years, and I got a chance to interview 5 major companies that actually produce applicant tracking system platforms for companies like Starbucks and asked their data scientists how they are making sure that they're not rejecting qualified applicants. So it really all boils down to how these companies are building their language learning models, where they're getting their data sets from, and are they actually having a human in the loop? And here's something that I noticed on this note, Daniel, and people that are listening probably see it as well. Petative information input. I've talked to Allstate and so many other companies this week because I got into a car accident with someone. I'm fine. But I've had to repeat the same information at least 10 times.
Yes.
And it's so frustrating. And I will say to the person, I'm like, hey, I've already given you this information, but I'm happy to give it to you again. And that
Right.
tells me the information is not syncing up in some way, shape, or form. And us as users, it's the onus on us to keep putting that information in, but it's just not a good use of time. So I think we really should take a step back and ask ourselves what is necessary in applicant tracking systems to have turned on.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And I'd love to see corporate executives, high level people apply through the process that people who are looking for a job have to do. And people say, oh, you need to work harder, apply to more. I don't think applying to more jobs is the solution. But if you've ever gotten a rejection email 10 minutes after you've applied for a job on a weekend, I've experienced that. No human looked at your resume. And that's just an incredibly frustrating experience.
It really is. And for everyone out there that's looking for a job, don't give up. Continue. Look for ways to diversify yourself and do not copy paste things directly from ChatGPT. I will say that. There is metadata that is within the text that you copy and paste within ChatGPT. So if you copy that, put it onto a CV and just as is, send it in, applicant tracking systems can see that you used AI for that. So be a little bit smart whenever you're doing stuff like this and look for ways to stand out.
I don't think it's fair to penalize candidates for doing that, though, especially if all that applicant tracking systems are using AI to determine whether or not you qualify. So I think, if it's fair for one side to do, it has to be fair for the other side to do. But to your point, yes, it can be detected 100%.
Yeah. For sure. All right, let's move into the next headline here. Claude AI maker Anthropic bags key fair use win for AI platforms, but faces trial over damages for millions of pirated works. So, for a little bit of context for those listening, last August, some group of authors filed a copyright infringement class action lawsuit against Claude AI maker Anthropic. They did this in the Northern District Court of California, and in April of this year, Anthropic filed an opposition to the class certification motion, arguing that copyright class relating to 5 million books is not manageable, and the questions are too distinct to be resolved in a class action lawsuit. So, as a part of that argument, Anthropic warned against the prospect of ruining statutory damages. 150,000 times 5 million books. That would mean $750 billion. That's just an exorbitant number. So a month later after that, a hearing was held regarding Anthropic's motion for a summary judgment on fair use, which included the extent to which any of the uses in the works in question qualify as fair uses. The long story short, the judge of the hearing urged the parties to settle, which was interesting. And then later on, the ramifications of this is that this is only a summary judgment, so the early stages of a case that's currently being heard. Other AI copyright cases dealing with the same fair use issue are all looking at this case as kind of a gold standard of what might happen next. So we'll put a link to the full article here, but I do think it's something worth paying attention to because there are a lot of landmark cases going on right now related to AI that will set the scene for the future to come. What are your thoughts, Daniel?
Yeah. So when I first heard about this case and the amount of damages that were being reported here, it reminded me of when music labels were suing Napster and other similar type companies to say, here's how much we lost because of copyright infringement. And obviously those numbers were absurd. They weren't preventing sales. But this one is a very interesting scenario because if you're an author and you don't want your book used to train an AI model, what do you do? There's not a centralized location where you can go and say, AI models, all of you, don't use my information. Even if you were to go to each individual AI and say, there's too many AI models out there pulling from so many different sources, that would be a full-time job. Maybe that's a business idea. You go to authors and say, pay us. But my point is there should be a way for, if you don't want your writing, your work used in AI for training purposes, that you have that ability to say no. And I think that should be something that is widely available.
Agreed. The technologist in me wants to see some metadata standards happening. I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. But you know how we have a JPEG and RAW, like those are universal standards for images, right? We need to have some universal standard for text that's like plain text of a human and text that's AI generated. Will we get there in our lifetime? Who knows? But that's something that I do think is necessary for us to live as a cohesive society moving forward.
I agree.
All right, so this next headline, Daniel, you're really excited about it. So Google Photos merges classic search with AI to speed up results, which is really exciting. So tell me why that you wanted us to cover this, Daniel, because I know you're really excited about it.
So one of the things that I see people do a lot is when they are looking for a photo on their phone, they scroll back to find that specific photo. And Google Photos does a wonderful job of indexing your photos by searching what's actually inside of them. And it's been doing that for many years. This is not a new thing. So I could type, New York into my Google Photos and we'll find all the pictures of where I was in New York State or Manhattan, landmarks that relate to New York, whatever. And they added AI to that search, which then made the search worse. But now they're combining the original search way and AI to make that search better. So if you want to quickly find a photo, you can, or a video. And I think for people who are content creators, social media marketers, if you have a really good database of photos on your phone or on your computer that you load into Google Photos, you'll now be able to find them even quicker. And I think that makes the whole content creation process a lot easier when you can reference that old content, new content, whatever it is, by what was in the photo or where you were when you took the video. And all of that really helps the process.
Tremendously. I have like 60,000 plus photos. And if I'm looking through that, I've got to be able to know. So like searching the word license plate whenever I need to look up my license plate or my driver's license, like things that you need to reference, or it's so helpful and it saves so much time.
Yes, I absolutely do that. Every time I use the parking meter, I have to search car in my phone and I find a picture of I took my license plate.
Yeah, especially if you're driving a rental car, right? And you're out and about and you have no
Yes,
idea what it
yes.
is. So, or outfits, if you need to look at, what was the shoe that I was wearing? Look at shoe or high heel. So definitely take advantage
Yes.
of that if you're listening, and that will save you some time when you're ever trying to show your friend the latest, greatest thing.
Absolutely. Or something that happened in the past that you want to share.
Yes, yes. And on that front, like I try to, every now and then I try to do some digital hygiene and spend, whenever I'm on an airplane is when I try to go through my photos and delete all the stuff that I don't need and kind of get rid of it. So I recommend everyone maybe set some time, an hour or 30 minutes, like once a quarter, to do some digital hygiene, just clean up the stuff that you don't need. That way you have a little bit of a cleaner bucket of stuff to work with.
Yes. And this way you don't use up all your available storage space.
Exactly, exactly. And that's a good segue for Google launches Doppel, which is a new app that lets you visualize how an outfit might look on you, which is so exciting because we all know we need help with figuring out, is this outfit going to look good on us, especially when you're shopping online.
Yeah, I think this is a really interesting one. There are several tools out there that are similar, but the fact that Google is stepping into this space signifies that it's definitely something that's going to be getting bigger. Basically, how this app works is you can take a picture of yourself. You can now import pictures of clothing items, whether it's a screenshot or something you took a picture of in a store or whatever, and you can see how that outfit is potentially going to look on you. Obviously, it's not going to be perfect, but this is where the AI part is coming in. And Ashley, you and I were talking about this before. When I saw Alicia Silverstone do this in the movie Clueless in many years ago that I don't want to say, I was blown away by that concept. But now here we are. This is something you could do. Take a picture of all the clothes in your closet when you're planning your vacation outfits. Even if you are in a store wondering whether or not that will look good on you, but you don't have time to try it on, whatever it is, I think there's a lot of scenarios where this is going to be a very useful tool, and it's free.
I love it. I love it so much. My aunt already does this, but she takes pictures of outfits on like laying on her bed and she just saves them for later. But this
Right.
is great because what better way than to have a digital inventory of your closet if you're out and about and you're like, "Oh, do I have a pair of jeans that will work with this top?" "Oh, yes, I do." SX is another company that I like to follow that does some really cool digital wearables in the metaverse or in VR, virtual reality. And it's nice to see us go in this direction because I can't tell you how many times someone has returned something because it didn't fit. So think about these savings from a company and the ease of purchasing from a consumer perspective that something like this can have as an impact.
I like the point about the cost savings that you made because it does take time, whether it's the Amazon delivery person and then you taking it to the UPS store or wherever to return it, so many steps. But if you could look ahead of time and say, okay, I understand that it's a small, but now that I see how it fits on me, I know that it's not going to work at all. Or sometimes it's just the way the sizing is made, it's made for a much larger small person or whatever. I guess I'm saying I've bought clothes that don't fit me right, even though I think technically they should. So I think if it addresses that, it cuts down on waste back and forth. It's a win for everybody.
Agreed. And that's the beauty of technology. It's making things more efficient, slowly but surely, and creating more exciting ways to engage with our tech. So that's our lineup and that's our news for this week. You can find us on social media to connect, and we'd love to hear what you think of the show and how we can make it better. That's how we get better, is by listening to you. You can find me on Instagram at AshleyRCoffee89. That's AshleyRY89. And on my podcast, Coffee and Code, at coffeeandcode.com. And I hope you have a great week. But Daniel, where can they find you?
You can find me at Daniel Hill Media on Instagram, Threads, and YouTube. And if you like this kind of content, you like news, check out my social media news show called The Instagram Stories, wherever you get podcasts. Thank you for listening, everyone, and be sure to come back next week for more AI news.
Thank you.